Hello and welcome to another episode of Satoshi's 365 Days of Bitcoin History. Today's date is Friday the 17th of November 2023, the year of BSV. Buy BSV.live, the best place to buy Bitcoin SV online, the original protocol and genuine Bitcoin. Right, let's get into a bit of Bitcoin history to find out what happened today. So we've got 3 emails here that occurred on the 17th. I'm not going to go through them all. A lot of them are just sort of asking questions. But we are going to go through this last one. And again, there is some bits repeated here. So it looks like they're sort of cutting and pasting emails and then replying to different parts. But there is a fantastic quote here from Craig at the end of this one. Another one of those famous quotes that actually hasn't been all that famous, but I think I'm going to try and make it so. So on the 17th of November 2008, before the release of the white paper, Ray Dillinger wrote, okay, I'm going to summarize this protocol as I understand it. Again, we went through this the other day. He said, I'm filling in some operational details that aren't in the paper by supplementing what you wrote with what my own design sense tells me are critical missing bits or obvious methodologies for use. So I'm not sure if this is Craig or Ray here, but we'll read this bit. There are a number of significantly different ways this could be implemented. I've been working on my own version based on Patricia hash trees. Not yet ready to post, we'll post in a week or so. With the consensus generation being a generation of file sharing using Merkle hash trees. Patricia hash trees, where the high order part of the Patricia key represents the high order part of the time, can be used to share data that evolves in time. The algorithm, if implemented by honest, correctly functioning peers, regularly generates consensus hashes for the recent past. Thereby addressing the problem I've been complaining about, that we have a mechanism to protect against consensus distortion by dishonest or malfunctioning peers, which is useless absent a definition of consensus generation by honest and correctly functioning peers. A little bit confusing there, but anyway. Then one of them continues. First, people spend computing power creating a pool of coins to use as money. Each coin is a proof of work meeting whatever criteria were in the effect for money at the time it was created. The time of creation and therefore the criteria is checkable later because people can see the emergence of this particular coin in the transaction chain and track it through all its consensus view spends. More later on coin creation tied to adding a link. When a coin is spent, the buyer and the seller digitally sign a blind transaction record and broadcast it to a bunch of nodes whose purpose is keeping track of consensus regarding coin ownership. So that must have been Craig saying that because he's explaining it. And it looks like Ray Dillinger has replied here, I don't think your blinding works. If there is a public record of who owns what coin, we have to generate a public diff on changes in that record, so the record will show that a coin belongs to X and soon thereafter belongs to Y. I don't think the blinding can be made to work. We can blind the transactions details easily enough by only making hashes of the details public X paid Y4 and then the address, but the X paid Y is going to be fairly obvious. If when Joe spends a coin to me, then I have to have the ability to ask, does Joe rightfully own this coin? Then it is difficult to see how this can be implemented in a distributed protocol without giving people the ability to trawl through the data detecting that Joe paid me. To maintain a consensus on who owns what coins has to be public. And again, so this is kind of like getting onto, the difference between anonymity and privacy, which will probably I see a bit of information on tomorrow on the 18th of November 2008. So he continues, we can build a privacy layer on top of this. Oh dear. So this is where the sort of next layer things come in. That's really not good. So any layer on top is a securitized layer. And when you're talking about transacting on that, you're talking about currencies basically. So he doesn't understand the base layer here quite clearly. So he said account and Chaumian, I guess that's can't remember his name now. Another famous guy tried to invent David. I think it's David Chaum. Maybe is that the reference there? Chaumian money, reference to David Chaum. Who knows? Based on BitGold coins. First reference to BitGold coins. Much as the pre-1915 US banking system layered account money and banknotes on top of gold coins, and indeed we have to build a layer on top to bring the transaction cost down to the level that supports agents performing microtransactions, as needed for bandwidth control, file sharing, and charging non-whitelisted people to send us communications. So the entities on the public record are entities functioning like pre-1915 banks. Let us call them BINCs for post-1934 banks no longer function like that. So I guess this must be Craig. So Craig is saying, but if they receive a longer chain while working, they immediately check all the transactions in the new links to make sure it contains no double spends and that the work factors of all new links are appropriate. Yeah, so that must be Craig explaining it to him. And then Ray continued, I am troubled that this involves frequent retransmissions of the data that is already mostly known. Consensus and widely distributed beliefs about BitGold ownership already involves significant cost. Further, each transmission of data is subject to data loss, which can result in thrashing, with the risk that the generation of consensus may slow below the rate of new transactions. We already have problems getting the cost down to levels that support microtransactions by software agents, which is the big unserved market. So they know it as well. A big unserved market, micropayments. Bandwidth control, file sharing, and charging non-whitelisted people to send us communication. To work as a useful project has to be efficient as it can be, hence my plan to use a Patricia hash tree because it identifies and locates small discrepancies between peers that are mostly in agreement already without them needing to transmit their complete data. He continues, we also want to avoid very long hash chains that have to be frequently checked in order to validate things. Any time a hash chain is potentially become enormously long over time, we need to ensure that no one ever has to rewalk the full length. Chains that need to be rewalked can only be permitted to grow as the log of the total number of transactions. If they grow as the log of the transactions in any one time period plus the total number of time periods, we have a problem. Biggest technical problem. So I'm not sure if this is Craig or Ray speaking there. Alright, we'll just read on for a little bit. If it gets boring, I'll just stop and skip it. Biggest technical problems. Yeah, so I wonder if this is Craig. To remedy this, you need to either ensure provable propagation of transactions or vary the work factor of a node depending on how many links have been added since that node's most recent link. Yeah, this is Craig explaining it here. Unfortunately, both measures can be the sock puppets. We mentioned that the other day. Yeah, lots of X and Y's there. Okay. Anyway, let's continue here with a central point. Will it invite attack? Will be attacked. Yeah. The problem with computer network money is that the past can so easily be revised. So nodes come under pressure to adjust the past. I did not pay that swiftly because I should not have paid that, which requires arbitration, which is costly, and introduces uncertainty, which is costly, and invites government regulation, which is apt to be utterly ruinous and wholly devastating. Yeah. Now we know what the regulation's true purpose is for. Just f everything up. For many purposes, reversal and arbitration is highly desirable, but there is no way anyone can compete with the arbitration provided by Visa and MasterCard, for they have network effects on their side, and they do a really good job of arbitration, at which they have vast experience, accumulated skills, wisdom, and good repute. So any new network transaction system has to target the demand for final and irreversible transactions. The idea of a distributed network consensus is that one has a lot of peers in a lot of jurisdictions, and once a transaction has entered into the consensus, undoing it is damn near impossible. Oh, I wonder if this is Craig talking about this. That sounds really good. One would have to pressure most of the peers in most of the jurisdictions to agree, and many of them don't even talk your language. And those that do will probably pretend that they do not, so people will not even try. But this is a great quote here. It says, to avoid pressure, the network has to avoid any central point at which pressure can be applied. Recall Nero's wish that Rome had a single throat he could cut. If we provide them with such a throat, it will be cut. Wow, that's got to be that's got to be Craig explaining that. What a brilliant way to end. So that was the 17th of November, 2008. That was. But I'll tell you what also happened on the 17th of November, 2022. One of the biggest single day losses in wealth in history. On this day, it was FTX that filed for bankruptcy. So this was literally just a year ago now. And if you ask me, in my personal opinion, I would say it's all been orchestrated. This has all happened. A book's come out. It's been really quick. The guy who wrote the book has got unprecedented access to what went on behind the scenes, which just makes me think they're all probably in on it. I think personally, call me a conspiratorist, I think this was all orchestrated purely to make the crypto industry look bad, and make that try and reflect that negative image onto Bitcoin and make people not trust it and not want to use it. That's in my personal opinion anyway. So there we go. That is a 11-minute show. We'll leave it there. Hope you enjoyed it. And as ever, be aware, take care, stay safe out there, and we'll see you in the next one.